Hello and welcome back to another episode of Supercoach Insider. My name is Ben.
And I'm Chris.
And you are who, Swizz?
I'm Swizz.
Swizz Station. Everywhere from here, there. My man Swizz is back again for another episode. Thank you for joining us. If you haven't already, please do like, subscribe, get amongst all that funny business. Check your Facebook settings because I swear all of you Muppets aren't getting notified of all my fantastic drunken posts the last 2 weeks. So make sure you see fantastic in open brackets. Otherwise, SC Insider 100, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch. Definitely very active on the Twitter. Make sure I give you my login details this week, Swizz, because I want you teeing off at all the North folk. Or should I say Hawthorn? Tee off whenever you like, my friend.
Anybody that's seen my Twitter this week, you don't want to give me any more access to Twitter. Fuck me.
We'll put you on a temporary ban.
I've been watching you just go off on Twitter. Anything Richmond related. I hate playing at Docklands. I'm going to cry about it. That was classic Swizz this week. It was great.
Well, it was the key theme for coaches to have a whinge this week. On YouTube, if you haven't liked us already, please do find us. We are Supercoach Insider. Just search for us. We might actually, it's a pretty big week this week, so we're going to go through. Also, I posted out as well. Congratulations to Corey from SC Elites. Not going to lie, I thought he was gay for a little while there, so really happy he got married. No, just kidding, Corey. No, really am happy for those guys over there, so happy days there. And like I posted online last night, I think he just got married, so he only has to pay Chris half the bet and hit up his new missus. Hey, well, it's half of our bet, so it's only $50 my way.
Yeah. What? Now you're claiming $50 your way? I see. No, I see what's going on.
No, your way. I'm losing enough bets, as I'm sure you'll tell the world. Now, I was very reluctant to make this pod, and I was telling, because Chris is away, and he's taken his headset, trying to make everything work, and I was just like, no, it's just the Swizz and Ben show today, because guaranteed, Josh Kelly scored, 132?
It should have been 180, but, hey, look, we'll go with 132.
I was cursing him from the very outset. I do not want to do this podcast. I literally don't want to talk about Josh Kelly, but unfortunately we do have to today. So we're going to start off with looking at the rookies and obviously cash cows, not many on the horizon. We're then going to talk about the premium injury situation, the sit show that Marshall and Greene, Toby Tobertson, have found themselves in and what to do there. Then we're going to go through those who are ripe for the picking, those who are going to be on our hit list coming into the buys, and more importantly, what is our structure and plans going into the buys? Because they're only 2 rounds away, boys.
They are. It's going to be. I think every move you make, you've got to look now to definitely at the buys and how it impacts your team. Right down to the fact of I'm looking at bringing someone in with an X buy round. How does that impact my structure? Am I going to be able to cover over the buys? And if not, then you're just going to have to choose a different target for the next couple of weeks. So. Really, really interesting stuff moving forward. I also like to just say I am starting to get on my own Twitter account as well. I've got 15 followers, so that's really good. But if you guys also want to give me a shout out, my Twitter is CFX_1, and you'll find that's my personal Twitter account. And I've just sort of branched out and get my own brand happening. So that way we know who's who. So when it's coming from the main account, it's Ben, and when it's coming from me, it's obviously me. Makes it a bit easier.
Yeah, right. Enjoy those 2 more followers.
Just got 2 more followers.
Just branching out. But thank you.
That's 20% gain, mate. That's huge gains. What are you talking about?
That is huge. Now, can we please just get this over and done with? Can we talk about the fact that I brought in Mitchell, the Titch master, instead of Josh Kelly? Can we just get this out of the way, boys? Because it's painful.
I was at the game, mate. You know how weird it is? Be there in your Richmond jumper cheering a friggin' opposition player every time he got the ball. Or friggin' how Josh Kelly got the ball a lot.
You don't even own Josh Kelly, though, am I right?
Yeah, I do.
Oh.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you do. Wait, how did he look up close? Was he as sexy up close as he was on TV?
He's a beautiful, beautiful man, mate.
He is. He's good to look at too, isn't he? Isn't he, Ben? You must love looking at him. Obviously, in all honesty, he has had that role change, and he looks like rolled gold. But it's still a risky pick. I'm not sitting here saying that it's going to be a flawless pick. He's still got body issues, and he has had his entire career. And obviously, his role is intertwined with Whitfield. So And that's where we've noticed is obviously Whitfield coming in, has taken up that role on the half forward flank and wing. And now Josh Kelly is playing much more wing and inside on the ball. So that's pushed him in. Now, what happens this week with Greene going out? Does that mean that they might use Kelly a little bit more forward than they have the last couple of weeks? Who knows? So it's not a flawless pick by any stretch, but I'm happy to report that as it says, as 1 week owner, he has an average of 132 in my team. So that's good.
And a one week owner for Titch, and he's averaging, what's he averaging me? 69, 72?
Hey, I warned you about that pick. I warned everybody off that pick, including you, and you were like, nah, I'm doing it anyway.
Well, here's the thing. I've been eyeing off Titch for the whole year. I probably should have realised this, and I was going to go Zorko because I blessed him. I couldn't get him last week because I brought in a fucking injured Houston. So I was going to get in Zorko, and I was like, right, they're both going big. And my problem was I thought Titch was going to actually go up in price a lot because they were playing North and he loves a loose ball. But I was wrong. Big time wrong.
Don't worry, Ben, you weren't alone there, mate. I jumped on Titch as well, and at that price, and I was so sick of him in leagues. With every week, it seems my opposition person has him when he goes big. So I'm like, no, I've had enough of this. Titchy coming in, but unfortunately, midfielders actually haven't been doing that great against North, and didn't pick up a contested possession against them, and pumped out. What did he pump out? 76. So
I should have learnt when I had Steele. I brought in Steele against North, and remember how I said they can't tackle when they don't have the ball. So
yeah,
I should have learnt that lesson. But hey, it's one of those things. And Zorko is on my side this week. I have to get in Zorko now. His price is going up, so it's a bit crazy.
To be fair, for those people who have picked up Titch, it's a whole season thing, and they've got the Blues and Gold Coast coming up, and I feel like there'll be plenty of points for him to pick up over the next couple of weeks.
How about the
just on that though? Before we move on, that I'll highlight this to you guys during the week. Here's some interesting stats about Titch. He's averaging a career low in tackles per game, career low in goals per game, career low in handball to a kick to handball ratio. It's just the amount of it's ridiculous. Like clearances in his Brownlow year, which was 2018, he averaged 8 clearances a game. He's averaging 3.4 per game, which is his career low up outside of his rookie season. It's insane. I bring this up with you guys, and it was sort of just like water off a duck's back. He's not playing good football, even though he's averaging 33.6 disposals. He has 11 kicks in that and 22 handballs. Most of them are uncontested. It's just he's not the Titch that we had even last year. I don't know what exactly it is, if it's injury related or whatever it is, but Titch is not the same player. And I bring him in round 2. I think I traded
Dangerfield.
Neil straight Danger to Titch like straight up, and I've been watching him very closely ever since, and he has not turned over. Even the week he went 147, still didn't. I thought it was more luck than it was actual him having a good game.
Talk about insult to injury there. I bring in Titch at $525K, and guess who's more expensive this week?
Kelly?
Josh Kelly. Like,
yeah.
It's absolutely insane.
And you're lucky he's still pick upable because he was on 126 at 3/4 time, and he should have gone huge, and he had 6 points in the last quarter. Yeah. What's that about?
Broke his hand. Although no one mentioned it.
Ben, Chris, how was Ben's text message when after Jelly kicked a goal, runs to the bench, and Ben's messaging us going, oh, he's injured, he's just gone off injured.
He's gone to the bench, he's sitting down on the bench, he's injured. I think he's done a hammy or something, and Chris wasn't watching the game. He's like, what? And then he was actually sitting on the bench.
Good time. Well, Swizz, how'd you go last week, mate?
2201. It's good on most of my leagues, and that's moved me up to 876 overall now. So still a few mistakes which are annoying me, but yeah, no, I can't be too disappointed with that.
Hey, that means we're all in the top 1,000, boys.
We are.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
Cheers to that. I'm still scraping in the 1,000. Don't you worry. I had 2 extra rookies playing for me last week, so we'll get into that in the team reveal.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah, boys, so upset there. Right, let's move on to the rookies. There's not much to talk about now. Rumour is Lachlan Jones, the big fleeking mullet, might actually return. Boy, is that what you've heard, Chris?
Well, yeah.
Close?
So he will either be playing AFL or Sandful. I'm probably leaning towards the fact that he will probably play Sandful this week. However, if he's named A, you have to get him if he's named. If he's not, then you could still get him knowing that he's going to probably play in the next couple of weeks and it's not going to be too much of an issue. So there are options to bring him in. With Tom, is it Jonas that's gone down with a broken cheekbone? He's out for 6 weeks.
No, I don't think it's Jonas. I think it's
Cleary. Is it Cleary?
Yep.
So you think that Trent McKenzie will probably come in to replace him? I think that's probably the most logical scenario. And then Jones would have to come in for, I think Bergman is probably the likely out of there. But do I think he comes in this week? I think it's more likely that he plays Sandful than he does. Just knowing how Ken likes to, he wants to take a precaution with his kids. So I think maybe 1 or 2 weeks in Sandful before he comes in. However, because of that, I'm not averse to bringing him in this week. It doesn't really faze me if you have him, because most people have Highmore, who's now obviously already playing. Some have Nathan Murphy as well, who's probably going to come back this week. So it's not like you don't have playing bench players. So bringing in Lachlan Jones, if you did need a downgrade option, I think is the one to do.
And that's because there's not many options out there. Is that what you're talking about?
Oh, there's literally zero options. There is no one on the bubble that looks to be... Like, there are people on the bubble, but they don't look to be having regular games. You got Nick Murray there, who obviously didn't get his third game, so he's available. Harry Edwards is available if he gets picked. There's a couple of guys that, if they get picked, they're going to play their other game. I mean, you can probably still pick up Ollie Henry, because he's actually gone down in cash. But yeah, I'm not sure. There's just not really much there, mate. So I would be, and at this stage of the season, you want to try and bring in guys that are going to have good job security moving forward. And he's obviously a guy that does have good job security if he's going to get named. So that's why I don't mind it.
With Lockie Jones, like, they play away this week against the Pies, so I don't think they would risk him on the trip. Then it's just Freo on their bye, so they probably go, okay, they're playing North Adelaide, West Adelaide the next 2 weeks, which are the two of the lower teams in the Sandful, so it's a good opportunity for him just to get some match fitness with no pressure, and then he can have that extra week after the bye, and then they'll probably bring him in after that.
Yeah, after the bye, that sounds like a pretty smart strategy there, I think. So even when you start to look the week after, even then you have Max Holmes, so he was out, in and out, one-hit wonder. Nick Bryant as well, similar. So there's not too much as far as...
It's Ronan O'Connor's
O'Connor, basically.
Yeah, he's the big one. So he only played 50% game time, and they said after the game that they actually managed his time on ground. So for him to get that score, a lot of tackles in that low time on ground is really impressive. So he'd be the one that I would 100% be looking at getting in next week if he gets another game, which I hazard a guess. Based on his performance, I can't see why he wouldn't be playing again, at least the second and third game. But
agreed. And even today, news came out, was it Matt Crouch? Even more security there for those rookies because, was he having groin surgery? Matt Crouch out now for probably the year?
Potential of late in the year, but I don't think they're risking this
They're
year.
saving him for finals, are they?
Yeah, exactly right, yeah.
Jeez. So very interesting there. Also, another side note when we're talking about Adelaide here, we did talk about Rory Laird struggling without Sloane in the side, and you notice his scores have actually peaked up a little bit when Sloane's come back into the side. Rory Laird's actually picked up as well, which we kind of spoke about. He needed a bigger body to help kind of clear the scruff in the midfield there.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not. I don't think he's a good midfielder. Don't get me wrong, but is he an A-grade midfielder? Like Sloane is a contested bull, and that's just not really Laird's game. He's definitely more of an uncontested player than a contested player, but he can get in and under when he wants to. And I just think that he's better as that second release type. So it just suits his game more. So this week, guys, with the lack of rookies, you've got two options, and a lot of people have gone double down either last week or the week before, and there's a lot of guys out there with bank. So I suppose the question for this week is, do you now spend that bank and you go double up? Do you still try and go one down, one up? Or do you try and save some cash with an eye towards the buys, knowing that you're going to have a little bit of cash behind you to upgrade in round 12? So I think that there's 3 A's to play this week. What are you guys looking at?
Well, I'm not, but I know this is a question a few people have had. because a lot passed up on Collier Dawkins last week. And a question going around is, do you go and spend the extra money and treat him as a high premium rookie and go get him because of his possible job security and great break even? So what are your thoughts on people who missed out on Collier Dawkins first, boys?
What did he go up, 50K?
A little bit more, almost 60. My answer is yes, but the reason is most people will be trading Tom Powell this week because of his break even. So there goes a guy that is your on-field scorer in your midfield as a rookie. So by bringing him in, you're probably playing him on field. And for the next few weeks with his job security the way it is, I can see that being a huge bonus. He probably gets you right up until their bye, which is the round 13 bye. And then after that, his job security gets a little bit sketchy. So if you're trading Tom Powell and you're probably going up, you got or potentially maybe you're trading a forward or whatever it may be, you're going to need someone else there to come in and provide some bench scoring for you or some rookie scoring in your midfield. I doubt that people are running 8 premium midfielders at this point in the season. I think it's probably a little bit early for that. But for example, this week I'll probably be running 7. So RCD is the logical choice as the as my M8 until I can upgrade him. So I think that makes sense because he's going to be on field. He probably still makes 100K at least, with potential for a little bit more.
Not only that, if you had RCD on your bench and you had Powell on your field, you could easily transfer and trade him to, if you're going to upgrade, trade him to a defender or a forward or whatever you need, knowing that RCD can go on field, which is a nice flexibility.
Last thing you want is someone like, say, a McNeil coming on to replace Powell now. You could upgrade somewhere, but now you're downgrading midfield essentially.
Yeah, I feel you there. So, all right, let's go. We're going to go from Marshall and Greene. So what would you be doing, boys? So was it Marshall out for a month? Greene about the same. I think, was it Toby's 15%? Marshall wasn't. I think it was 4%, went up to about 7%. So for those few percent that grabbed him, unlucky. Would you hold trade coming into the buys? How important is it to have playing players on the field?
Swizz, you're up.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think because it's so hard because these forwards at the moment are so difficult. I've heard a lot of people going, no, I'm going to fix my forward line and bring in all the forwards. I'm going the opposite and going, well, I'm just going to keep backing these rookies in because some of these rookies, some weeks are going poor, some weeks are going all right, but there's no consistency or really any premium forwards, which I'm actually backing in at the moment that I would prefer to have. Apart from there's a couple of spectacle ones that I know a few are talking about in like your McDonald's and Heinz and that. So for me, if you've got a loophole, I would be looking at some of the defenders or mids that are there for the picking and trying to back in some of these rookies if you're going to trade out of Greene and Marshall. And I feel like you probably need to trade them out. So that's just probably my take on it.
Yeah, 4 weeks is a long time. If you're going for leagues, you can just hold on to it because they're going to be best scenario coming back when they start getting on the field. But having guys actually getting scores for you in the buys is really important, especially for overall. Overall, 4 weeks you have to trade. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. Not only that, if you have a 0, that's not someone that's contributing for the first couple of rounds in the buys. Toby has the first one, but even then the second and the third buy he'll probably miss. Toby might make it back for that last buy. So
yeah, I'm actually on the camp of probably hold Toby and trade Marshall. Marshall, unfortunately, I feel really bad for everyone on the board because I was going to. And I dodged that bullet massively and very, very luckily. But yeah, obviously he's going under the knife. He's had this injury or a similar injury all season, and this is an injury that's popped up because of that injury. When he comes back, he's probably still going to be underdone. I think that best case scenario is it'll be after his bye, maybe a couple of weeks after the bye, and it'll be late in the season. Are you going to even need him by then? Potentially. I think if the situation arises where you needed some ruck or forward cover and you need to sideways someone, then that's when he comes into calculations. I just don't think that even when he comes back, he's going to be full fitness. So it might be worth just saying bye-bye Marshall for now and reevaluating when he comes back.
Because after their buys, you'd want your team to be full.
Exactly right. Yeah, you don't want to be carrying another.
You're not going to want to play a rookie for 2 more weeks waiting for him to come back in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I definitely do agree with you there. It's an
my only issue with Toby, a lot of people were getting him to have him during the buys because they're playing North Melbourne, Carlton, Hawthorn, Gold Coast. Now, if he ends up missing those games and he has to then play your Melbourne's, Port Adelaide's, Geelong's, I think you're missing that scoring potential just because of his injury.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look, the risk is that what you'd hope is that he comes back for the round after the bye, after his bye, which is, 3 weeks? But he's listed at 4, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So in an ideal world, he has a speedy recovery, comes back essentially a week early. Can't guarantee that, though. So you are missing that 1 week of scoring. And the fortunate thing is that most people are pretty okay for that bye. That bye doesn't seem to be too bad. But you're definitely going to want him back for the last bye, if at worst. You need him for that round 14.
The other thing with that, Chris, if it was Sydney right now as a Sydney player, I'd be like, for sure, because they list them for 6 weeks and they come back in 2. But GWS is a bit like Fremantle with Ben's boy Luke Ryan. Go for a test and then 3-4 weeks later is still out. And GWS always seem to have that issue as well.
Apparently Luke Ryan was walking laps the other day with Tracy, and I was like, he might miss again. He's walking laps. I was like, no, he won't. He is not missing laps. He ran so hard the day before that he's taking a recovery day. That's what I'm telling myself.
I actually read it just before we got on the podcast. There was a press release that he should be back this week. So I think you'll be okay with Luke Ryan.
And Houston. Yeah. Okay, so let's go. Now we're going to look at, for those who are ripe for the picking, we're going to start into defense. Is talking about ripe for the picking, Caleb Daniel, boys. Is he back in action? They played him forward. They put him back into his defense. He scored a 120 this week. 3-round average now of 112. He's still priced at a reasonable 468K. You still holding firm that Daniel is a no-go?
No, I have him, so I love having him and that. I know Chris doesn't feel the same, but he's at his price. I think he's definitely an option if you don't have the money to go up to one of the top premiums. He's not going to have the scoring of the the Mills and Lairds and Stewarts and whatnot, but I still think for 100K cheaper for a couple of those guys and that, I think he'd be more than serviceable and get close enough.
Yeah, look, I don't hate him as a pick at the moment, given that they've had another role change. I think I worry about role change in the future now with Bevo. So Bevo's already shown a propensity to change him around. He's the one that's going to be changed around if they needed someone to play a different role. And that's always going to be a question mark over his scoring. And it's the same with Josh Kelly, I suppose, is that you're running the risk with both of them. So with both of those guys, you get a discount when you take them on board, and that makes sense. Personally, I think at this point of the season, you probably got to go best available still, which in defence, there's just so many more options. So, I mean, I've already got 6 defenders, so I don't really need any more, but I don't have Mills, I don't have Salem, and I don't have Stewart. Danny Rich is also still there popping up as a top 6 option there too. So there's just so many more guys that are averaging more. And yes, they're more expensive, but yeah, Callum Mills is averaging 112 as 6 points per game clear of the next defender, and he's only 560K. But that's still really good value for what he's pumping out. So, look, if you've got no cash, you desperately need a defender, then sure. But I'd rather be spending, that's the sort of money I'd rather be spending in your forward line with the lack of options there, and then trying to get the best possible in defence.
Don't mind it. Speaking of right for picking, those who don't have Jordan Ridley, 481K. Have you got him yet, Swizz, or is this you this week?
I've already put him in this week, and this is the reason why I'm not jumping up to a Mills, because the cash that I have will let me get in another forward premium that we'll talk about soon. But yes, Jordan Ridley is back in my team.
I like it. 480K. I think he's 80,000 cheaper than Mills. If I had the option of the two, I'd probably be going Ridley right now based on the discount.
The only issue is I was at the Essendon game, and I know Redmond's roles picked up with taking the kick outs and that, and they're both taking a lot of those intercept marks. So Ridley's not getting the lion's share like he did, but that could also be a case of letting Ridley get back, get his head right and that after that knock, and so hopefully sort of things changed. Also, Freo had quite a tall forward line in on the weekend, so Ridley did have to play a little bit more lockdown than he normally would. So some of the opposition coming up, hopefully he gets that intercept role.
Yeah, look, he's got a high floor regardless. I mean, what's one of the great things about Ridley is that what's his lowest score been for the season? Like an 85? Like, okay.
When he got knocked out?
Yeah, well, outside of obviously that, yeah. But so I think he's a safe pick with a high ceiling and a high floor. So there's not really a question mark. The only question mark is can he get back to his ridiculous scoring at the start of the year? And right now with Redmond taking up those kickouts, it's probably not going to happen. I think he's probably somewhere between 100 to 110 average, depending on any given week. Could be 120, 90 to 120 is what you're going to get out of him. So pretty safe pick, safe role, potential to be better if the situation arises. I really like Ridley. I think that he's one. Also, I don't know if you guys noticed this guy called Sam Docherty. He had a bit of a role change in the weekend. He was playing wing. So
and he's also now 6th overall, Chris. So you were one of the...
Yes.
Not many people started with him either.
He's 540k, guys. I might cash him in.
Well, you might have to next week when he does an injury.
Look, it's actually something to monitor. He actually pushed up the ground this week. He was on fire early. I think halfway through the second quarter, he was already on 70 points and definitely slowed down towards the end of that quarter. What's happened, obviously, is Nick Newman's come in. Now, I think they started the season with Nick Newman playing Luke Park's role. But obviously, he went down before the season started, and then they went Tom Williamson in that role, and now Luke Parks is that sewn up. And what's happened in the meantime is that obviously Newman's come back in and they're looking at restructuring. They also play Zach Williams behind the ball a little bit more this week, trying to get him into a more familiar role, as what David Teague said.
Yeah.
So he was playing on the wing, and he actually had a few clearances, pushed up the ground a little bit. It's a bit interesting how they're playing him, and I'm a little bit scared for his scoring because he obviously scores his best behind the ball. So if you were looking at getting Sam Docherty in right now, I'd say pause, wait a couple of weeks until we get a little bit more idea of what is actually going to be his role moving forward.
What's crazy is after the first 2 rounds, when we're like, oh, Docherty was a bit shaky and everything like that, he's averaging 110.8 after round 2.
Yeah.
Which is absolutely bonkers. And we knew he could. Do you know what I mean? It was a bigger game, a longer game. He's that kind of outlet. And we did say, we noticed he was pushing up behind the contest earlier on as that outlet. And he got quite high up the ground, as he said as well. So it is interesting. He's starting to pull together.
There's 0.7 points per game difference between the second-ranked defender, which is Christian Salem, and Daniel Rich, which is number 6, and he's averaging the exact same as Sam Docherty, which is just insane. The guys that are averaging well. So good on him. I think it's a little bit too early to predict what's going to happen with Sam Docherty, but I've liked it so far, so I can't complain.
Yeah, that's fair. They are still reasonably priced too. Rich, Docherty, Stewart, that 550 mark, they're just hovering around there, so it's definitely not a bad option there. I think that's about it for the defenders as far as reasonably priced. Lockie Whitfield, obviously not yet.
There's one I'm going to bring up, and you're happy to slap me on this because it's just a terrible, I can't even believe I'm going to say this, but my man Oleg Markov, mate.
He looks good when he's got the ball, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, the thing is, Jack Bowe's now going down with 3 weeks, and Markov scored 3 tons in the last 4 matches or 5 matches of that. He's definitely taking on that role. But he's 420 with a break even of 37. So I guess those who just don't have the cash and wanted something a bit different with somebody who's going to have Bowe's role, it's something that you might have a look at as somebody who can make you some cash, maybe get up to one of those premiums, especially if you're somebody who has still quite a few trades left.
Yeah, see, Markov, I had him picked in a lot of drafts early on, getting a lot of the ball. He was that rebounding defender, I think, because Lukosius. Meanwhile, put Lukosius back. Maybe that happens now that Bose is done because Lukosius is doing shit on the wing and up forward. put him back. He's a great kick. Put him in the defence line. I'm hoping that'll actually happen now. So,
well, that actually did happen in the last round. They moved him back into defence a little bit. So I think it's actually killed Bo's scoring. So it'll be interesting to see what happens when Bose returns to see if Lukosius moves again. And if not, then you're going to have to trade Bose straight away because he won't be able to hold up that premium level scoring that he was. So keep an eye on him if you are keeping Bose.
But yeah, Markov, his only downside is Markov butchers it sometimes. But
absolutely he does. But he's got a role there for at least this bye period and that. And if he's going to see a lot of ball, he's going to have the opportunity to ton up.
That sounds good.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. Another thing to keep an eye on, guys, is Braden Maynard. He's actually got back-to-back tons up his sleeve, and we know that he can produce some good Supercoach results. I still don't technically – I don't like him. I mean, at his price, it's okay. I think he's about $450K. But the problem is, any given week, he plays a different role. So he might play lockdown one week, and then he might play loose the next week. This week, he actually played on Lance Franklin, but obviously ran off him as well. So – I don't support the pick necessarily for standard, but he's an option there at his price.
Yeah, yep. Sounds good. Let's move into the midfield. Now, we're going to go through those who have probably dropped off. We're going to talk about Josh Kelly again because obviously he's a decent price point. Interesting, though, for quick little shout-out for draft leagues now, Jack Graham. Interesting because Richmond are so poor in their midfield and stuff at the moment. Jack Graham actually putting some good scores together for draft leagues, so jump on if you haven't already.
The other one for draft there is Willem Drew from Port Adelaide. If he hasn't, I actually picked him up in a couple of drafts. He's gone 129, 107 and 109 the last 3 weeks. So he's in a bit of a purple patch here.
Yep, sounds good. Alrighty, now starting off, we're going to go with Patrick Cripps, break-even of 79. He's priced at 411,000. Started to show a little bit more of the old Patrick Cripps as far as tackle numbers were up. He started to actually get into the contest. Very cheap, boys. He's 411K, break-even of 79, which means he's probably actually going to go down in price. Am I right? What are your thoughts here coming up to the buys? He's very cheap.
Oh, look, honestly, I feel like on weekends he hangs out a little bit too much with Patrick Dow because this week, I've never seen Patrick Cripps do this, but he, don't get me wrong, looked aggressive at the ball. When he got the ball in his hands, looked like a deer in headlights, had no idea what to do with it. He was looking around trying to get a handball off because he didn't want to kick the ball. I could not believe it. Now, maybe that's a directive that his kicking's been really down, therefore we want you to handball to other guys, or maybe kicking actually hurts his back. But I saw a Patrick Cripps that was afraid to kick a football on the weekend. Even though he was tackling and was getting the ball, he was just afraid to put it on the boot. So I'm not entirely sure what that is about. But there is still no chance in hell that I'll be getting Patrick Cripps in this season at all.
Oh, I might do it.
Oh, of course you will.
I might know.
That's a surefire way to get back to the top 5,000.
Well, because if it goes right, then I could be like, I can talk about Cripps all the time to Chris and say, hey, I might have lost a bet, but watch this Cripps guy come home like a thunder.
You can do it, man. I'll just be over here with Josh Kelly just laughing the entire way.
How much is the price difference between you're looking at Powell to Cripps? It's not much. It's like 25, 30K. Bargain.
Because they're averaging the same.
The problem is, Ben,
it's actually not even worth it.
Once for the season.
You may as well hold Powell. You'll probably get more on-field scoring.
But
it's honestly, it's so not worth it in any way.
He's turned up once for the year. He still didn't turn up on the weekend. And for those who bother watching Footy Classified, the footage that they showed of him still last from Sunday's game, where he would get the ball in space and still just handball to space, really. That was it. He wasn't trying to pick out targets. And that, yes, he was tackling, but his ball use is the only person's ball use that's worse at the moment is Fife when he's kicking for goal.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. I didn't see that. So that was just me watching the game and noticing that. So I'm glad that someone that would call themselves professionals also noticed that, because the amount of so-called professionals that just say shit is ridiculous. Anyway, I completely agree. There's no way that I'd be looking at Patrick Cripps. I think that's a stupid move.
Well, he's 400K. Their back half of the year is better. I can't see him playing a half a season as bad he is right now. I can see Cripps going, I reckon he averages 100 or more for the rest of the year.
I reckon that gets to the point
Before
where they can't
100K.
play finals and they go, all right, well, we'll just rest Patrick Cripps for the rest of the year then.
Well, because they've signed him.
And Ben, once he tons up, we'll revisit this conversation.
Okay, sounds good. Chris, can I also say I'm really upset you're not actually wearing a Collingwood jersey or jumper or anything?
Oh, dude, this knit is really nice, actually. You're welcome. I didn't bring a jersey, unfortunately, on my trip.
That was knit the question, Chris. Okay,
so
Josh Kelly, 541K, break even of 80, still definitely worth getting. If you have room, would you get him now with, 2 rounds until the buys for them? 10, 11?
Yeah, love him.
Agreed. Titch now, didn't go much in price, break even to 95, 532K. Would you get him now over Kelly, yes or no?
Nope.
No.
Yeah, me either. Nope, I would not get him this week.
I wouldn't get it. I told you, if I didn't already have him, I wouldn't have brought him in last week. I do not like Tom Mitchell this year. I haven't seen a single game where I've liked his game.
Hindsight's a lovely thing, but if I had the choice this week, even I would choose Kelly. So there you go. Clayton Oliver, break even of 96. Okay, so who else is bottomed out here, boys?
I don't think there's so. I think we're getting to the point where we're not really looking necessarily at bottomed out players. The only one really is Steele, who has actually probably bottomed out. However, his break even's still 114, I believe, this week. Let me just pull that up. 114. So he's playing the Dogs, who generally don't give up midfield points. So he's probably not going to exceed that. If he does, he's not going to really gain much cash. So you can afford to wait a week on Steele if you need to. However, he's obviously one that I think most people have an eye on. Plus, he's got the back end buy, so he gets you through those first couple of buys. Be aware of what players you do have there, but I think Steele is the number one midfield target for me.
There's two that I'm going to bring up here. One, Darcy Parish, and I'm sorry I have to even mention his name.
I was going to bring him up in my in the buy premiums area, but yes, no, I love it.
Yeah, his last month has been unreal since they finally realised he's an inside midfielder. He's gone 162, 107, 115, and 134, and they've still got some soft games to come up.
Well, that'll fit in perfectly then.
The only problem is his price, right? He's not actually very cheap anymore. We've kind of missed the boat. He's 564.
Yeah, but that's still, if we're talking, I know we would like cheaper, but in those other midfielders we're kind of talking about, he's sort of still in that range where people should be able to afford if you wanted an option like him. The only issue for me is that buy round, which doesn't
middle buy round's hard. Yeah, it's tough to navigate. I agree. I mean, I think people are still looking at trying to get in guys like Lyons and Bond, and like, don't get me wrong, they're very, very, very good options. And if you've got the cash, then great. I'm sort of worried now, and this sort of leads into the next segment. If we're looking at these really expensive guys, I'm talking, your Guthrie 617, your Lyons is 630, Bont is 627. These guys that are 600 plus. I'm more looking to try and get them in through the buy after their actual buy. Yeah. And the reason is, first of all, you can double down one up to them. So cash is going to be so much of a problem then. I've just got a problem right now with blowing your bank right now. So everyone's got, I think most people have around 200 to 300,000 this week. If they're going one down, one up, you can almost, especially if it's power, you can almost get to one of these guys. But then you're blowing your whole bank, and then what are you going to do next week? And then what are you going to do the week after? So I think you've got to be wary about your cash situation and where that lands you, especially if you're even double upgrading. So you double upgrade this week, well, what can't you get next week? What can't you do the week after that? So just looking just that week forward and trying to work out what your next plan is really important for the next step until round 12 where the buys are, and then you're going to need some cash for those buys.
Yeah, and you got guys like, say, Travis Boak in that first round who's 546 at the moment, who could be a real juicy price come after his buy. So, if there's other issues in your team that you can fix which aren't going to blow your bank, definitely look at that, and then have a look at these guys like a Boak who could be a great little upgrade option come round 13.
Yeah, for sure.
That makes sense, because otherwise you're going to find yourself going, upgrading, say, a Scott, and you might have, instead of having some money already, so if you kept that $100,000 by going a cheaper option, then you go one down, one up, you can actually get Scott, you have a little bit more money, and you can actually take 100,000 from the last trade that you've saved, throw an extra
Yeah.
150 from a downgrade, and then all of a sudden you're actually affording someone around 500,000 instead of being short 400. Going, oh, what is there for 400? Nothing.
Well, and this is exactly my dilemma this week, and I will go through a little bit more detail on my my team pod. But I've got a couple of options, and one of them is to double upgrade and get Hall and Heeney in, which I can do this week. But what that will mean is that I can't get Steele next week, and then how am I going to get Steele in? You know, I've traded out Powell, I've traded out most of the cash in my team outside of like guys like Scott, which are like almost 300, or McNeil, which is 250. I'm going to have to do 3 trades to get someone like a Jack Steele. And then by that stage of he's gone up 30K, and then I might be out of reach again. So you got to think of what are you going to do next week? How are you going to be able to continue that one down, one up cadence so that you're not lagging behind in premiums compared to the rest of the competition? So just something to think about. Do you bring in 2 subpar premiums this week, level your bank, or you just keep going that one down, one up, and have enough to get the optimal premiums every single week? So
let's run with that. Let's talk about Heeney now. So bottomed out forwards, he's 342K. He's dropped 112,000. Break even of 75, which is in reach. Now, my issue at the moment
in reach. That's a little bit. I suppose he might be able to get 75 this week, boys.
Well, you might be able to. It's in reach. Okay, now my issue is that the coach has come out, so he has this ankle issue. They never know how he's going to pull up until after he plays. So basically, they play the day after. It's either sore or it's not. Now, he's not training before Thursdays, basically. He rests his ankle and then hopes to train at the end of the week to get up and play. Now, that sounds like a pretty big red flag, but again, you look at that juicy price. Risk versus reward here, boys. Where do you sit on the fence? We'll go Swizz first.
Isn't he on everybody's burn list? It's just, like, how can you not love the guy? He's great to watch. We know he can pump out scores, and Sydney have been playing really well. But as you said, that injury concern, especially that, with the Swans, they do have to travel every second week. So there'll be games there where they might go, well, like they got Freo this week, got to travel to Port after their bye. They might go, well, he's not getting up this week, we'll give him the rest. And you can't ignore the fact that he did go 44, 54, 19 3 weeks in a row. So he could go one of 3 ways. He could get injured. He could go on a big run, as we've seen him do in the past, and with Freo and Carlton, that's a big possibility. Or, depending on role, if they just manage him through, we could see these 40s and 50s again.
Look, I agree with everything that you guys are saying, and it is a risky pick, but you get that with the price, right? So you're paying 342K for a guy who has been a top 10 premium multiple times in his career before. I think the biggest thing for me is that if I'm bringing him in, and I've looked at about 50 different ways of bringing him in, and I can bring him in multiple ways, I'm only bringing him in to get me to a Dangerfield or to push to F7. I'm not bringing him in for the rest of the year as a permanent on-field top for F6. That I'm not doing that personally, and the reason is I can't trust that in any given week he's gonna be there. So as long as you go in with that mindset of this guy's only going to be here, he's going to get me through the bye rounds or whatever it might be, I only really need him for X amount of time, then I think that it's a positive move for your team, and it can be in certain situations, but you'll probably have to upgrade him as well at some point, or he'll probably get injured at some point, and you just need to be aware of that. I think it's like the closest thing you could probably say to it, a little bit like, say, when people brought in Tex, except now it's around the buys. He can still probably make you some money while on the way there. If he gets a couple of hundreds in a row over the next few weeks, he'll make you $100,000. That, I don't think that's an issue. I'm obviously scared of, he needs to play these next 2, 3, 4 weeks. Like, he needs to get you through the buys. I think Danger, due back, that he said that he wants to play before the buy or after the buy. Don't think that's going to happen, which would be round 13.
I think he said he wanted to play round 13. However, they're playing Port Adelaide on a Thursday night. So it might have been too soon, that game, where their round 14 match is the game down in Geelong against the Doggies. I think that's what they're trying to aim for.
That makes sense. Now, the problem is you can't bring him in for that anyway, because his break-even, what's his break-even sitting at, Danger? It's something ridiculous.
Something stupid.
And he's still obviously very, very, very expensive. You're not going to blow 611K on
198.
198, yeah.
Yeah, 198, 611,000. So you'd have to at least wait a week or so for him to drop some cash.
Probably 2.
Yeah.
Regardless of what he's scoring, you're probably waiting 2. He's probably going to drop to 550.
Yeah, 550, 560.
Yeah. So 2 weeks from this, which means, if Heeney gets you through the buys, trade him out at his buy, or to Danger, or the round after, depending on where it's at with his break even, etc.
So the perfect world is he plays that round 13 because they play their bye rounds are Port Adelaide away, Bulldogs home, Brisbane away. So he's as good as Dangerfield is. There's possible limitations on that scoring in those games, just because how good some of those other players will be. And then you're hoping to bring him in round 16 against the Bombers.
Yeah, and I think that he's got to be a must-have towards the end of the season, right, as your last upgrade.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
especially how bad the forward line is. I'm actually not even mad if you waited for him to do one big price drop to start and then jump on early, because points at that point, if you have the cash, points matter. So I'm actually thinking wait for him to sort of even drop 1 or 2, depending on how he goes. If he looks promising that first game, bang, I'm just jumping on. Because at that point, my team should be finished, and cash.
Then it doesn't matter about cash position.
Then
because
cash
you don't
doesn't matter
cash.
as much, correct. So if he's my last player, then I'm waiting for him to sort of maybe drop 1, depending on how my cash sitcho is, and then just jumping on. Because at that point, you've got a premium that's playing, and considering how shit the forwards are, Dangerfield will be worth his weight in gold, I feel.
The thing that'll make his weight in gold, we hope Geelong drop those games against Port Adelaide and Brisbane where they need to win. The last thing we want is Geelong just to continue to go on a streak here and then do what they normally do, is rest some players as they come closer to finals. If they can drop 2, 3, 4 games, that would be fantastic because it forces Dangerfield to play in the midfield.
Yeah, not sure they drop him though. Like other players, your Selwoods, who have been a bit battered up through the season. I mean, Danger's had a bit of a rest. He's someone who I think would actually want to get the confidence going into finals in his body. So...
and that's how he's talking too. Like he's a guy that likes to play football. Yeah. So he plays for injury before. If he comes, obviously when he does come back, I think they're not going to risk him because they need him for finals. That's simple as that. But when he comes back, he's not going to just take the next week off or one on or play 2 and then have a rest. I think he'll play through the rest of the games. So are we all in agreement that then we're not looking at Heeney as a long-term option, but we are looking to him as potentially a stepping stone or just to get us through the next however many weeks?
I can see Heeney being a good F7 at that price.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah, so there's that possibility too. So, but if people wanted to wait with him for a week, he's break-even 75, but he's every time he's played Freo at home, he's scored over 100. Every time he's played Freo in Perth, he's scored 80 or in the 80s. So if that trend continues, he's not going to go up by much money this week, and you could wait another week just to see how his body's going. But, somebody maybe is a stepping stone through the buys, absolutely.
Yeah, I think I'm the same. I'd rather wait the week, and he's not going to go up too much unless he sets it alight. Don't forget he kicked 3 goals when he went 110, so it is definitely reliant on him having some impact, and that way at least you get to see one more week, hear through the press as well how his ankle's going for another week of loading, so interesting with that. Now, Aaron Hall, we're going to go to you, Chris, because...
I was literally just about to bring up Aaron Hall.
Yeah, well, you mentioned him before, so I'm intrigued. Some people jumped early, and that pains me for the top 1,000 out there that jumped on Aaron Hall. You should not be rewarded. He's doing really well. It's a joke, Chris. Calm down. It's not a deal. Don't take it so hard. 454K, though, so he's gone up 62,000. He's still actually at a really good price point as well. That's why people are considering him. McDonald is still a while away. He's still quite a while away. So, interesting.
I'll bring that up actually while we're chatting. But, it is interesting.
Well, he's averaging 100.2 for the last 5, 110.3 the last 3. When the first game, he was a sub and he got a 6. So, that's why his averages actually look quite low. Then he came back with an 81 or 133. Started to look pretty good, right? Then he had first quarter went absolutely big and then got knocked out on a 37. So his true average would actually be really impressive when you take out his 6 and his 37, which aren't in his control realistically. Not soft tissue or anything. He was a sub, got knocked out. One score then under 100, and that was an 81. Otherwise, it's 112, 113, 106, and a 133. He is actually really impressive this year.
I think that, obviously, as we said last week, what works in his favour is that obviously the forward line sucks. So there's very few people that are putting their hand up in the forward line, and he's one of them. I don't hate the pick, and I haven't hated the pick since he started putting on the scores. I've just always been worried about his body, and that's not going to change in terms of is it a risk or is it not a risk. At 454K, he's 30K more than Dusty, but he's outperforming Dusty at the moment. I actually have thought of, if I don't think for my team, in terms of risk in my team, I couldn't run a team with both Hall and Heeney, because there's every chance that both of them go down the same week and completely ruin my season, which is not going to be fun. But I don't mind it. Now, the other thing is to be aware of is that most people have Zeeble and Impey, so obviously that means you'll have 3 round 12 forward premiums.
And also, they're all injury prone as well, like previously.
Yeah.
That's why they were so cheap to start the year. They were injured.
All forward premiums are injury prone, bro.
Can I just say, if forward lines are that bad, it's kind of like the Alexandria Hills Hotel at 3 a.m, where everything is... Everything's so, like, literally the forward line's that bad that you're looking at going, oh, well, mate, you'll do. You're a bit cheap. You're a bit cheap.
I like to call that the 3 a.m. snatch.
The 3 a.m.s. Yeah, like, hey, look, you're a bit cheaper. You're not going to cost, not cheaper as in that, that sounds really bad. But they also have a questionable body. You're going for the easy one. It's really, that's the feel you get though. When
you're really digging that hole, are you, Ben?
Well, not yet, but sometimes when I lay down.
I was going to say, did the other half listen to this pod?
No, I'm talking not for me. I am a happily snatched up man with a little one. I'm just saying for the people at home, and that's your local dirty nightclub. Chris knows all about it.
By the way, it's actually reopening soon, so you're welcome.
Right. It's called the Squeeze Bar, and we call it the Pit because once you get in, you never get out. Right.
Look, I think so. It's probably last week on Aaron Hall because his break even is 47. So if he pumps out another 110, he almost prices you out. He'll be what's he projected 92 with a 20k price rise. At that point, you're paying premium price for a premium player. He's no longer value. So I think that he's probably missing the boat if you don't get on him this week, and I think that it's a good week to get on him, but there are risks associated. There's risks associated with Heeney, and pretty much any forward there is risks associated with them. So there's no right answer is probably where it's at. But if you had to pick between, I think Nick Hind and Aaron Hall are the same price right now. I'm going Aaron Hall every day of the week. That's the highest ceiling for me, easily. It easily gets me involved. So... I don't know where I'm going to land at the end of the week, but at the moment, Hall's looking like the guy that I'm going to have in my side.
Touche. Don't mind that at all. Let's have a look at the other break-evens. I can't believe Tom McDonald's still chipping away here, boys. Break-even of 46.
Oh, by the way, Luke McDonald is 5 to 7 weeks away.
Okay. All right. So Aaron Hall could change after that point, and Zeeble for that matter. So it's going to be interesting. We don't know what's going to happen there. Very interesting there. Zorko, my man Zork, break even of 60. Now this pains me because Zorko and Dusty both have low break evens. Both went well last week. So Zorko 511k, break even of 60. He scored a 140, which means that his price that's now in his cycle, so his price will be going up. So if you don't have Zorko, I think you kind of have to either get on now or expect to pay 550 for him after his buy. What do you think?
Agreed.
What do you think? Now, if you don't have Dusty and you don't have Zorko, because their break-evens are both low, who would you be buying this week?
Zorko this week, get on Dusty the next.
Yep. So hopefully it doesn't go massive and go up too much in cash.
So as much as I say that, I sent you early in the week, Ben, all Dusty scores against Brisbane. And he doesn't usually muck around against the Lions. So, and we know he's really our only premium midfielder at the moment. He could be in for another big week.
Yep, that pains me. Now I'm in this situation. So the only consideration is maybe with Zorko, they actually have a couple tough opponents. They play like Melbourne and GWS and someone else, I think, before their bye. So he could actually average out and be 550k around that bye. Not a bad option as well. So Zorko, definitely, he is a good option. He scored a 140, hitting the goals and stuff like that as well. So it's an interesting one. And I'm tying Dusty as well. If you don't have Dusty, then now is definitely a good time to get him. He's break-even 68, which means, yeah, again, as we said, there's not many midfielders there for Richmond, and Dusty always towels us. Not only does Dusty always towel us at the Gabba or at the MCG, they actually came to Brisbane last year, played a lot of games in Brisbane, so he knows the ground really, really well. Towelled up there in the grand final as well, absolutely kicking it a shit full of goals. So he likes the ground as well. Every time. It annoys me.
Probably likes that more than playing at Marvel, mate.
Do you know you can actually go Danaher down to Dusty and make $1,000?
Really?
I'd do that in a heartbeat.
Wow. How's Danaher got to 4? Wow, Danaher, what a cash cow. I kind of regret not getting on him now. After he started off...
Yeah, had a quiet start and then went bang.
Lions weren't winning for that first sort of few weeks. So look at him now, though. Look at me now. He's made 193,000. That is ridiculous. What a cash cow. Did your missus traded him too, didn't she? Didn't he, she Swizz?
She did. It's about the one thing she's got wrong for the year, and that because she's reminds me about every other good thing she's done. So yeah, let's give her
include marry you.
She hasn't done. Yeah, well, isn't she lucky doing that? 5 years, 5 years married. Well, yeah, I will give her a shout out. 5 years married to me the other day. So well done, honey.
Hey, congratulations, mate. You may pass the 12-month mark, unlike me.
Oh, Chris. That's brutal. Very, very brutal. All right, now we're going to just go and quickly from Chris to Swizz to myself. What are you thinking for the buys? Are you loading up now? Are you going to wait? You're going to try and bank some cash? And who are you actually looking at to get that you don't have in your team already during that stage?
So I'm definitely going on the bank cash route. So I have the option to, as I said, double up to Hall and Heeney or Hind and Heeney or one, a combination of those guys. What I've come to the realization is if I do that, then I'm not going to get optimal premiums moving forward. And then when it gets to buyers, I'm not going to have any cash to get any more premiums. So there's a couple of things we've got to be cognizant of. First of all, the rookies right now that are coming through are fucking shit. And they're looking like, usually what we would try and do is we try to say double downgrade, say the week before the buys so that we have enough cash to go into the buys and really upgrade to these players. But none of them look on the horizon at all. Like I'm looking at guys for next week, and I'm looking at a guy that had 50% time on ground as my saviour for the week. Like the rookies coming through are looking really, really shit. So I'm looking to hold on to some cash, probably about 200 grand, continue my one up, one down for the next couple of weeks until the buys hit. And my first one that I'm looking at is after the buys is Guthrie. However, I'm very worried about bringing him in, then 2 weeks later, Danger comes in, and all of a sudden he's not averaging 122, he's averaging 105 for the rest of the year. That is worst case scenario for me. And if I look over those guys in that buy round, you got Hall and Zeeble from North, Boak, Butters, but he's due back late season. Houston already have. At Hawks, you've got Mitchell, Impey, and Hardwick. Hardwick's actually had a very good season in defence there. Obviously, Danger, Guthrie, Duncan is still an option. Stewart and Tom Hawkins. And then at GWS, you've got Greene, Kelly, Taranto, Whitfield, and potentially Hogan. Now, there's not a lot there. Like that are saying, pick me, outside the guys you already have. So Guthrie's really the one that I'm looking at, but I'm still even questionable on him, to be completely honest. What do you guys think about Guthrie?
I'm thinking worst case scenario would actually be him averaging 105 for the rest of the year, and then the suitcase coming through and out averaging him in the last game, and not only in the last game, after scaling. That would be the best scenario of the year. As in he's losing until scaling.
And in the same game, Patrick Cripps scores 343 Supercoach and also overtakes Sam Walsh.
Hey, it's possible. Swizz, you go.
About Guthrie or about buys?
Oh, about everything.
About everything. Well, where do we begin? For me, I'm at 19 primos after my trades this week, so I've got a M8 and an F5 and 6 to fill. So for me, it'll be hopefully Flynn plays one more game during now and sometime in the buys. Downgrade him to Tracy to make some cash there, and then I'll look at upgrading McNeil to that premium mid, which hopefully will be Steele. But if it's not, it'll be somebody after the buys like a Boak or a Bont for my M8. And then, my F5, F6, one will be Dangerfield whenever he's right. And the other one will be that sort of Heeney or cheaper option depending on what's available. Marshall hopefully comes back. But as you said, there's not that many great downgrade options. So there'd be possible looking for some value in that forward line as my M6. The other one I'm keeping an eye on is for Whitfield. There's the possibility that I just move Laird to my M8 and I bring Whitfield in to come in as my D6.
Yeah, that sounds interesting. I'm looking at similar. I'm going to, I think, bring in the Zorko this week. Get rid of Powell, downgrade probably to Jones, keep myself about 120,000. Next week I can go, say, Scott to a Dusty and probably downgrade as well. So Tracy comes in. Now that could change if Tracy plays this week, then I might actually, and Jones doesn't, then I'll just probably bring Tracy in for someone and do a bit of switcheroo. I'm also looking at Whitfield. I like Mills, but do I want to pay $550K for Mills? Maybe if Whitfield jumps down like it looks like he might, I would happily put him in my defensive line, put Laird up into my midfield, and then I'll only need one more midfielder with another couple of forwards, I think. So I'm looking at having that 120K for next week, getting Dusty, downgrading again, keeping more cash, and then actually trying to double down probably the week of or before finals, making sure I have enough players playing and getting as much cash as I can.
Yeah, and the other thing I'm looking at is the two that I really want are Lions and Bond. So I could potentially, depending on my buy structure, not do any trades in round 13 and wait for round 14 and get to spend the entire of that just downgrading rookies to get enough cash to get both Lions and Bond in round 14. So that's the other option that I'm potentially looking at. But
see, I think I'm a bit different to you guys because I've gone, mine are all the expensive middies now, and then I can actually try and look for some value because I've got
I did it the opposite way.
Yeah, so I've got Bont, McRae, Oliver, Walsh, Steele, Titch. Obviously, Titch is a token, but I've already got most of those guys. I'd like Lions, but am I going to go out of my way? No. By that point, Neil might even be back in, and I might just go third time lucky on Neil just as a Brisbane supporter because why not? No one else will have him. So if he's back in time for just after his bye, maybe. If he makes the cut, it's one of those things, and I do like Lions.
When's he due back? Let's have a look here. Brisbane, lucky Neil. Oh, it's actually due back in 4 to 5 weeks, apparently.
Okay, so what's that, round 15?
That could be just after his bye.
He's actually running on the track now too, boys. I saw footage of him today running around the track. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, he's getting some laps in now, so it'll be interesting to see. Could be depending on when that is that from last week or is that from this week? Because don't know.
That is as of May 18, so that is today.
Today, damn. Okay, 4 to 5 weeks, right? So it could be around 14 or 15, which is either just after the bye or the week after.
That's the week after his bye.
Yeah, so hopefully, I don't mind that. No one else will have him. Third time lucky. Surely he's played many games before. He's not normally injured, so I might take that bet. Imagine that, finishing off with Neil and Dangerfield. Happy days.
I might go a sneaky little Taranto to Neil. Ooh, shut.
Okay, now I think that kind of wraps us up. If you have any more questions, hit us up on the socials. Going forward, we can't forget this week because we left it last week. Swizz listened to the podcast, and I was like, that's what happens when Swizz, you're not on the podcast, mate. We've got to do captains.
Yeah, no, I was quick to point that one out.
That you were. Who have you got this week for captains? We'll go to you, considering that we always forget.
At the moment, I've got the vice captain on Oliver, playing Adelaide. Does like to beat up on the shit teams.
He does.
There was somebody. Well, I'm hoping Lockie Jones is still out because that'll make my my swing no problems there. Or Finlay McRae I do have, so he won't be playing probably on the Sunday, so that gives me that option. And then I'm looking at Grundy against a lifeless Port Adelaide.
I am definitely looking at Grundy as the captain. Who have they got racking there? Laddams, don't they? Yeah, so I will definitely be running Grundy as the captain. I'm probably going to VC McRae this week and go that way. But there is a lot of VC options, if I'm honest. I mean, I could even potentially look at... there's just so many. I don't like Gawn as a VC against Riley O'Brien this week. I don't actually mind Sam Walsh against Hawks. Hopefully he runs head-to-head against Tom Mitchell.
Dusty is also in the Friday night game.
Lions if you have Lions as well, because there's no midfielders at Richmond. So if you have McCluggage or Lions, not a bad VC there because
Zorko is going to kill Richmond this week, mate.
my wife pointing out Guthrie versus Sun.
Oh yeah.
No, who has Guthrie though?
There are a few people
Unfortunately, she does.
A few people now. I can't believe Chris was the one saying Guthrie had potential, and I shat all over that train this year. I regret that decision, Chris.
Look, I've made some good calls this year. I'm not going to lie, boys. I've had a good run.
Actually, yeah, you have. Walsh to out-average Cripps, or to do well. You said 110 plus, and he's on that train. Guthrie, you said, could average up to 110, and I was like, that's a joke. Meanwhile, I did actually counter him with a McCluggage, and he's been doing really well outside of his first 4 weeks. So we've done all right.
Yeah, we've had. I think we've had a good run.
We have. We didn't pick Tom Phillips or anything, did we? So,
well, just let's actually just have a quick update of little Tommy Phillips. He's averaging 71.9. It's only 20 points per game up to where he needs to be. So good on Tommy Phillips there for really being a good sport. He has a season high on the weekend with 81. Is that a season high? Oh, no, he had a 90 in round one. Sorry, lads. He had a 90 in round one. Hasn't hit the ton this year.
Everyone got excited at that too. So, as for me, I am a little bit torn. As for my VC this week, boys and captains, I am definitely going Grundy as my main man, boys. Now, looking at the VC options, I was looking at Gawn, but now that you speak about Swizz, I think Clary, he's gone 180 odd before against Adelaide, so I think I'll join you on that train there.
I think he pumped out a 205 against them last year.
Oh, maybe it was even before that. Yeah, so I think Clary's he's killing it. What's he averaging? 118, 119 for the year. He does like to beat up on teams like that. I can't see anyone really holding him back, to be honest. That's not a bad one.
Clary looks so good. I hate not having Clary.
But if he doesn't do well, then you know what it is.
Was it Grundy? It's Grundy!
There you go.
It's always, yeah. You must love hearing that, Swizz.
Oh, bloody hell. One game. Like one of friggin' American cost us winning 4 in a row.
What about... They didn't even start the clock, though, did they? Like, they waited ages and stopped it or something or other. That was that game that they lost.
Oh, the Grundy one?
It's out of my memory.
Oh, sure.
I was there, though. It was a good game.
Happy days. I think that wraps us up, guys.
It does.
Talk to you later. We might actually put both of Chris and my team reveals out on all platforms. We will see. Otherwise, if it's not there, guys, just go to YouTube. Everything's there. Enjoy our faces. Hopefully this has worked properly, and this is actually done well considering we're not in the same place, guys.
Yeah. Well done, everyone.
Thank you very much. Until
on to Townsville tomorrow, and on Thursday night I'll be catching up with Chizo from Supercoach in Cairns. So look forward to catching up with him.
Oh, make sure you send us a photo, hey guys. We'll put it up.
Will do.
Are you going out for a drink? You going for a drink?
Yeah, of course. We're going to have a couple of beers.
Oh yeah, happy days.
And you can talk about teams coming out on Thursday night.
Oh, Thursday night teams. What a day to be alive.
You should do a video, you and Chizo, Facebook Live. And announcing teams. All right, that wraps us up. Thanks very much, guys. And until next time, we'll see you shortly.
Bye.
See you guys. Bye.
Bye.